Wolves is just going to keep doing Wolves things, and that's why he's your MVP for game number 1. But as we approach game 2 picks and bans, Taco, if you're Armada, where are you looking to really change it up? Are you changing your own style, or are you trying to mitigate what Astral is bringing to the table?
I think that Armada were fine overall. I do want to see them wait just a little bit longer on Jarman's pick until they have 100% confirmation on what Wolves is taking. I think that the counter draft is something that felt a little bit unusual there from Astral. Typically, I don't blame Jarman because Wolves historically usually just picks his first god.
It's true.
And he doesn't care. Like, it doesn't matter. He just takes what he wants to play. And so I think Armada were just a little bit too presumptuous on that one. Probably won't happen again, though, especially not with them being in the first pick selection.
Armada going to try to go for a different style as well. I don't think the Naja was the course of action that really brought them any sort of momentum. I think the Zeus for Teep was a good idea. They need to really play around that mid laner.
Yeah, it definitely felt like the Ninja pick was a little bit forced there. It was like they wanted some pressure to try and match up the warrior jungle presence, but it wasn't quite what they imagined. And in fact, now they will get their Ravana, which is exactly what Joey wanted in the first place. I'm
very
sure.
True. The first game, it was Astral Authority banning that away because Astral were first pick, so they were Armada were forced to ban away the Baron. This time, Astral banned away the Baron, so some Wukong still being prioritized. Despite all these little changes, I don't know if it's first pick worthy, Todd.
Keep in mind, though, this might not be some Wukong for Layers. This could possibly be for the solo lane already. It's just hard to tell now with Astral.
Very true. Even support, who knows? Bobby might even play this from time to time, knowing him. Artio and Medusa, the selection out of Armada. I love Artio support, if that's where it's going to go, having a lot of lane pressure.
I like the Artio Medusa. You know that that's going to be guaranteed lane clear if those two are together. I'm curious to see what the direction is for this Morrigan pick because there are a couple of hot takes still on the board. There's the Ratatoskr and Serket, definitely still available for Astral. And also just keep in mind, Astral could very well have a Ravana for themselves.
Very true. We haven't seen a lot of Giannis's lately. And I think with Robin, if you're looking to play aggressive, Giannis might definitely help that course of action. Just get the mobility going.
I like Giannis for mobility, and mostly for the disengage, though. That's what I'd really want to keep an eye out for there on Armada's end. I think that Astral might just be a little bit better when it comes to team fighting because they've had so much synergy built around their team or their members for quite some time here, and Armada seemed to be struggling just a little bit with that, at least in game 1. Maybe it was because they were pressured out so heavily that they just seemed a little bit more scatterbrained, but I think that having more solidified wombo combos, even if they're just classical ones, could go a long way for them.
Well, we were talking about global pressure last game for Layers, and now it's going to be the Thor. This is a good idea to try to synergize with Morrigan if you're looking to get in and out of the action to avoid some of Robin's damage. And where do you think the attention from Layers is going to go this game?
I think it definitely needs to be applied more so into the duo lane. It punished the Medusa. That's probably one of their bigger team fighting components. You can even pay a little bit more attention to Teep there in the mid lane. I don't want to see Layers spending nearly as much time as he did there in game 1 onto this Sobek, because I am assuming that it's going to be a Sobek in the solo lane. It seems to have a little bit more survivability, and it looks like that could be an Aphrodite solo as well.
Spicy, spicy. Who knows where Astral's going to go in this competition? But who do you think at home is going to win this game, chat? Is it going to be Astral Authority off of this one game lead that they have momentum-wise? Or is it Armada with a comeback to force a game 3?
One thing's for sure, totally. I definitely want to see this Aphrodite in the solo lane just because I think that would be such a strong pick against the Sobek. Not because, obviously Sickening Strike can have some anti-heal factors going against Aphro, but it's the safe lane clear.
It's actually the Aphrodite support, Taco. Surprise, surprise. Inbound, always pulling up a fast one. I think he's just in love with all these mages recently.
I think that, at least for console, they tend to break off into their own separate meta identities. I don't mind seeing mage supports. I think that the meta is open enough right now in Season 5 that just about anything can work as long as your team composition is roundly composed.
This is really bringing it back old school for me, at least, ever since I got a pleasure to play with Shadow Q. He brought it out in that launch tournament, but we'll see what Inbound can do here in week number 3 of the console league. So far, a decent poke onto Zirxy that was playing that Kumakarna last game. Now trying to get some lane pressure with the Artio. oBoronic switching things up to the Morrigan. What selection does oBoronic go for consistently?
Early on, I'd imagine the Ravana. It depends, though, on how far Linn makes it into this match or whether he gets shut out of the jungle. There's also early transformations into the Thor just to provide another assistance factor for ganks onto the dual lane.
Well, if you're maxing out that second ability, Thor might be a little tricky considering you're going to max out that Tectonic Rift. Now, a little tricky for Layers. Forced to use some very early beads, and Linn's not done with that because he's going to blink right into the action. He needs to connect on the Prada Onslaught, but a perfect hammer right through the wall. And the chat certainly feeling Astral Authority with that 77% vote.
Just battle of the cooldowns here is all that it broke down to, and Teep just unable to provide any sort of backup there for Linn. Oboronic was still in the mid lane and had him zoned away from that choke point entrance. So Layers kind of coming out with a fast one there. Did cost him his purification beads, however, but since he's not going to be level 5 for some time, and same can be said for Linn, I'm pretty sure he'll have those beads back up and running by the time level 5 hits.
Well, Linn able to strip away those back cams. That's a good way to get some early pressure for Armada. I almost would have liked to see Joey hold on to his blink a little bit longer, wait for that hammer to pull to go through, and then the chase to commit. But, you know, save that for a rainy day thus far. Still poking out Zirxy, though. The healing from Inbound is going to keep Gryphon relatively comfortable, I'd say.
Inbound still not really suffering too much either, thanks to the birds, but Gryphon with this red buff starting to put in some serious damage against Zirxy. I like the interrupt that Bobby keeps doing with these kisses.
This is the one disadvantage of the enemy hunter going red and you're giving your own red to your mid laner. MitchTeep should be able to have an advantage for Oboronic, but this is where Fatal Ghost might struggle, where Gryphon is getting constantly healed up out of Inbound, but this is a great route. What a stun to prevent that Lacerate. Still taking a lot of damage, but the fact that the Lacerate is interrupted means that there's no anti-healing being applied.
Nothing that Bobby or Inbound has to worry about. Fatal Ghost, though, and Zirxy running a little bit low on mana here. Mostly Zirxy, not so much Fatal Ghost. But Zirxy's got to be mindful of how deep he chooses to aggress here, because if they play too close to Astral's tower line or half of the dual lane, you never know when Layers might decide to show up.
Wolves going to get rooted and punched just a little bit for trying to get into the jungle for Armada. And you mentioned it, Taco. Zirxy's with no mana. This is why I think we see a lot of Artio in the soul lane if we ever do see Artio, because you don't have to worry about spamming those abilities. You got a blue buff, and then more than likely you're probably going to be against a warrior, so you can easily rush into that Breastplate of Valor.
I definitely like that Armada chose to throw Zirxy onto the Artio. I think the cripple effect's going to be a little bit more useful against the Ram. It will guarantee a force out of the Astral Barrage if they manage to find Gryphon out of position. And not only that, but Zirxy also kind of struggled a little bit on that Kumbhakarna last game, I think. Artio probably some more survivability on that Guardian.
I think the disruption from Inbound on the Nox last game really kept Zirxy honest and in check. He almost made a play in that mid lane, if I recall correctly, where he used the dash trying to get closer for that epic uppercut, but it was a great silence route from Inbound. Layers has been having a little bit of a rough start. Hasn't died yet, but he's been getting heavily bullied, I would say, where normally he's the one bullying people.
Speaking of which, Gryphon and Inbound now the ones who were able to play up here onto Armada. They use so much early on that they don't really have a whole lot of health and mana. It's not like having an Aphrodite automatically attached to you, because that chain link, I believe, also provides a little bit of MP5 early on from Aphro.
With the Book of Thoth, that's going to be a lot of mana for both of these mid players. Now, Oboronic still giving the red buff to Gryphon, whereas Teep is going to be the beneficiary for Armada. Very frisky, I'd say, is the dual lane from Astral Authority, and confident to be able to proxy between Tier 1 Tier 2. Normally, this is an action being taken by soul laners that are like level 10 or higher that already have a physical defense item online.
Well, if you're Astral, it's just something you do when you hit level 5, and now Gryphon gonna have a chance to solo these oracles. Very important early vision for the pair to have over there in duo. And I'm a bit surprised that Linn hasn't chosen to try and push out Astral's duo a little bit harder here. It
definitely could have been the case if he wanted to. Neither jungler wanting to step inside that duo lane, especially for Layers that has a global pressure ultimate. You would think that if anyone was to make that first rotation, it would certainly be him, but instead just kind of waiting for that perfect time, and Jarman able to secure his own blue buff just barely, but because he had to use that pluck, he's going to miss out on a couple of minions and get bullied alongside.
And that's all that Wolves is looking to do, which is slow down Jarman as much as possible. Speaking of which, Joey Linn going to find Astral Layers all by himself in the jungle, but he's the one almost eating a double tap. Good overhead kick's going to immune the secondary proc.
Oboronic taking a lot of damage, a lot of missed abilities onto the Thor, but no missed abilities onto Oboronic, going up into the Sun Wukong to get the healing from this ultimate. Well calculated from Oboronic.
Keep in mind though, Joey Linn still had that root in place, but not going to be able to close the gap between himself and Oboronic. Even if he did connect, I'm not too sure he would have been able to finish that one off.
I agree.
But Oboronic getting a little bit lucky there on the changeling.
I would say so, definitely. Also because the stun was used onto Layers. Inbound taking a whole lot of damage. No ultimate for him. Shell being used. Needs one more basic attack. Gryphon absorbs the basic attack. The acid spray couldn't be spread onto Inbound, counting his lucky stars. But look where Linn is, right behind everyone.
Inbound still alive with 1 HP. Joey Linn gonna take some nice poke downs from the tower here, and that's gonna force Gryphon up into the air. He's still looking for Joey, but these Astral Barrage shots are not gonna connect. The last one does.
If he only hit the first two alongside that third one, maybe we could have had a 1-for-1, but instead Joey having to back on out. And look at this, his speed buff's up, so if Layers wanted to, he needs to rush that to be able to complete it. I don't know if he'll get there in time, though.
I will admit, though, this feels like it might actually work out more in Astral's favor than Armada's, because even though they get the first blood, it was onto Zirxy, the Artio support. That is not the ideal candidate for taking that bounty.
Fair enough, but there are several options to find a way to get a bigger benefit from it, right? Like maybe rush an aura item. I'm thinking Gauntlet of Thebes. If I'm a support that ever gets first blood bounty, trying to make the biggest impact I possibly could. Wolves still being that lane bully that he's trying to do, but Joey confirms the blue buff, which is so important for Ryan Jarman on the Sobek to keep himself relevant in the laning phase, whereas he struggled last game on the Erlong Shen.
Don't think Wolves wants to stick around any longer either. Recognizes that Teep has left the mid lane, and you never know if he's going to decide to rotate or not. Wolves has a deep ward vision, but not much more than that over there for solo side. And Jarman, speaking of which, doesn't have any. Probably not expecting any sudden guest appearances from Layers.
Not quite yet, but a sudden appearance of the duel lane from Astral right onto Zirxy. He's going to root, get stunned out, just walking away casually. Still haven't seen too many plays out of Layers. He's just been kind of farming it up.
But this is what Astral want. They want to be able to dictate the pacing in a more passive manner. They're the ones with the Aphrodite support. So they don't have to be aggressing early on. That's on Armada to play up into Astral. And the fact that they haven't been at least even looking to remotely abuse the buffs, I feel is a severe misplay on Armada's end.
Are we expecting to see an sorry, hold that thought though, because a nice poke right onto MitchTeep. Are we expecting to see the cursed Ankh to try to deal with Inbound? And if so, who's going to be picking that up for Astral, for Armada?
If Zirxy doesn't, then Jarman 100% has to. Speaking of which, Inbound, there's the Mystic Rush now. Joey Linn looking for the connections to try and knock him down.
The shell buys Inbound just a moment. The Petrify was barely off the mark. Despite going up and down, Joey's Mystic Rush damage was not enough.
But see, here's the problem. Armada push Gryphon and Inbound all the way back, and yet it's MitchTeep who's in a whole lot of danger now. Oboronic into the changeling now, still looking for the last hit, and he's going to be able to find it. There's nowhere left for Teep to run.
That's pretty much a solo kill. Layers did not get off any hint of damage for that one. If anything, that was a zoning ultimate. Don't worry about Layers. I got you. Zoning ultimate. Ryan Jarman still getting bullied out from Wolves that used an ultimate on his own side of the map. Blue buff, right for the taking if they want to.
And that's exactly Layers' intentions right now. Joey Linn on his trail, but I'm not sure he'll be able to steal this one away yet again. No, in fact, spin to win is the win here for Astral, as Wolves will collect his secondary blue buff of the game.
Look at Jarman's health pool after that one hammer.
That's a T1.
Done. But look at this, right through the tier 2 tower, not enough damage. Can we see what Wolves is maxing out on the Sun Wukong? I'm curious if he's going for the Master's Will. Okay. He actually does have the cudgel all the way up there, so it's just not enough damage quite yet. Very tanky is the Sun Wukong with Breastplate of Valor.
But 10.5 minutes deep, Astral Authority, they strike first when it comes to tower play. Speaking of which, Joey Linn now in a lot of danger. Inbound will manage to heal up Oboronic in no time as well.
Do I look like a
Armada, it feels like they're already at the stage where Astral's sustain is a heavy problem.
It's getting really up there, and we have to start seeing some anti-healing. I'm thinking Divine Ruin for T potentially. Maybe Brawler's Beat Stick for Joey. Obviously, Jarman has the Sickening Strike, but he's not going to be involved in team fights for a little bit. Maybe we could see a Pestilence out of Zirxy.
And this kind of goes back to what you asked me just a couple minutes ago. Who picks up the Cursed Ankh? And I would argue Jarman and Zirxy could both get one, and it would still benefit Armada pretty heavily here.
But it's actually Wolves that picks it up on Astral's side first. He's the level 12 winner of that race after finishing off the Anchile. And looking at some of the healing options for Armada, there's a lot of self-healing. Zirxy can heal himself up. Ryan Jarman on the Sobek has the Sickening Strike with the Health Chalice. Fatal Ghost is going for the Devil Gloves. Or is this going to be a Blood Forge out of the Medusa?
I'd like to see a Blood Forge. I think that it could be a strong power spike item for Fatal Ghost. And since he's already delayed getting Devils for so long, he'll be so far behind in stacks it might not even pay to get it anymore.
Already 60 stacks for Gryphon. Inbounds, caught between a rock and a hard place, but diving the backline. Layers takes out Fatal Ghost. Not done yet. A beautiful wall cuts off the Sobek. Can't find the pluck.
But Wolves, he still has that ultimate, and he's looking to run down Teep with a quick little backstep juke. Will buy him some time, but not enough. Wolves still brings down the Agni.
Barra backstep can't save you on that one. Mystic Rush from Joey in the thick of things. It's 2 quick picks. Make that 3. Pluck right back onto Wolves.
No.
But he brought him into Joey Linn. Astral Barrage. Ryan Jarman with one more basic attack needed. A delayed Deicide and Astral Authority are running away with this game.
How quickly an Empire can crumble, Tolly. Everything felt even, and then one team fight escalates entirely out of Armada's control. There was no way for them to respond.
They wanted Inbound so badly. Aphrodite is very tempting at times, but the Thor had something to say about that one, just shutting them down right in their places. 6 kills to 1. Astral Authority getting themselves about a 3,500 gold lead. Not committing to the Gold Fury quite yet, but with all this experience advantage and Bobby getting closer and closer to level 12, this grouping is about to happen any moment now.
But what baffles me is Armada. I understand. You want to kill the Aphrodite. There's so much to stay in there. It makes sense. But why on Astral's red buff, 12 minutes deep into a match where you haven't been pressuring out this dual lane to begin with, so Bobby already has more than enough farm to self-peel in time, and he's got the immunity as well from his ultimate, so there's no way to take damage when that's occurring, plus a shell. It just felt like a really forced engagement from Armada, and then they all grouped up inside of a choke point on that left mid Harpies territory, and so Layers, I don't think could have had more perfect setup, and it wasn't even from his own team.
It's very true. That wall from Layers also at the end of it was just so spicy to prevent Ryan Jarman from getting the pluck that he really needed to get at least a return kill. And shutting down an Aphrodite is important, but like a lot of people say, sometimes you got to force the issue, but not in this case. They need to be more methodical as Armada about when they go for these engages. If they don't know where Thor is, expect that counter ultimate to occur within a moment's notice.
But look at Wolves, and look at his level, 16, 3 above the next highest member on Armada, and we're not even factoring in the carries that Wolves has a strong arm over. So Astral, I'd imagine, are probably just going to start sieging everything with Wolves behind them.
I don't know how he does it, but he always finds a way to get at least 3 levels above his competitive side. Joey Linn taking more than half of his health. Oboronic, though, goes into the Mystic Rush to dive this alongside Layers. Joey Linn, how is he still alive? Oboronic gets knocked up in the back line. Finding the kill, it's going to be Jarman. A 1-for-1 Astral Barrage. Not going to do it, but I think Wolves certainly will.
That's all they needed was Wolves. Cudgel won't connect just yet, though, because of the Lacerate. Neither with the Bull. Beautiful peel here out of Zirxy, and Wolves is still trying to take up this tower, but one last Cudgel going to spell the end there for Fatal Ghost. He bought so much time for his team, but keep in mind, Armada, they're still under duress from everywhere else.
Uh-oh, Joey now blinking through that tier 2 tower, trying to get Gryphon on out of there. Jarman is going to fall, setting up with a beautiful stun. Joey Linn gets another one, trying to disengage his Inbound and Layers without any mana. I don't know how Joey can catch up to the speed buff. Instead, need to go for an objective.
No chance to try any further amounts of collapse there, but that team fight hardly worked out in Armada's favor. And I can't even really, I'm only saying it's Armada's favor because they didn't deicide there. They weren't fully wiped. That was Astral overstepping their lead and overstepping their boundaries, going a little bit too deep and having the team fight be too spread from each other. It was like two separate engagements going on at the same time. Wolves helping to follow up where I think oBoronic kind of left off, and it just caused things to get too spread apart from each other. And so Astral were punished for that, which I like to see out of Armada. But the problem is that that only happened because of Astral slipping up.
I think oBoronic got a little too frisky going into the Ravana, trying to Mystic Rush under that tier 2 tower. I was surprised that he didn't go for the same option of transforming into some Wukong to get all that health return for him to go for round number 2 again.
I think he just went for the first burst damage god that he saw, and he wanted the Mystic Rush to just finish things off. He wasn't probably expecting to take nearly as much damage as he did prior to Mystic Rushing into the T2 tower, but it certainly made the case a little bit easier for Armada to resolve.
Well, MitchTeep now getting himself a Divine Ruin could make these team fights a little bit easier. Gold Fury was flirted with for Astral Authority, but Armada going to prevent it. Zirxy's yet again poked out from Wolves. Ankile going to disrupt the root.
The problem, though, with this Divine pickup for Teep, it isn't so much that it's not going to be useful against Inbound, but it's that I think Teep was probably there. Actually, hold that thought here, because Wolves, a little bit of action. No, Armada are going to back off. What I was saying is that Teep is probably the best option Armada have for taking down Wolves, because Wolves doesn't have much magical defense, but since he's forced to itemize a certain way, he's not going to have the damage necessary.
Very true. He could be safe, but not going to be safe as Ryan Jarman. That wall from Layers going to pick off Jarman. Now it's Joey Linn that's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Uses the overhead kick, needs the Mystic Rush on out of there. Astral Barrage alongside Wolves, diving the backline. Double Thor action, double the trouble. Layers gets one to Teep. Zirxy's is going to be the next one to fall here. Inbound keeping everybody topped off. The nice back off with 4 quick picks. This is Astral Authority's Gold Fury to confirm.
They're not even going to waste their time with the Gold Fury, Toli. It is all aboard the Fire Giant train here from Astral, and with only Fatal Ghost left to try and play defense, he does have his Petrify available, but everyone's going to be fully topped off on Astral. By the time Fatal Ghost makes his way over, I feel like he'll just be walking into his death.
This is a tall task to ask from Armada to steal this one away. Astral Authority last game actually attempted the Fire Giant at this very moment. 5-on-5, but this time 5-on-1. I think they can rest easy knowing this is theirs very quick in the game.
Wolves left to play zone duty, and that's all they needed. Fatal Ghost never even got a chance to get close to that Fire Giant perimeter, and he also ended up losing his Purification Beads, which is a very important cooldown to have going here, knowing that Astral's next step of approach is probably going to be barreling right down the mid lane.
Oh, the stun from the kiss sets up oBoronic for a little bit of poke, but level 12 Artio, pretty tanky even against Fire Giant members out of oBoronic, and Inbound Layers keeping Joey right on his toes. Overhead kicking away, Mystic rushing overwards. The tectonic rip in the backline on the Anvil of Dawn, trying to find Fatal Ghost that didn't have the beats, but Joey still alive.
Gotta commend the patience there from Zirxy. Might not be able to save the life of MitchTeep. No, in fact, he will fall down here, and Zirxy could be in a lot of trouble now. Jarman still looking to give chase, lurking in the waters, bound to do some serious damage here, but because of the shell, it felt like nothing at all.
Nothing whatsoever. Defensive pluck right under that tier 2 tower. Joey no longer interested in the team fight. Gonna farm on the right side, while meanwhile, the Ram from Gryphon gonna be able to confirm a gold.
Zirxy really did do such a fantastic job there, saving the life, though, of, I think, his Hunter Fatal Ghost. Most importantly, I think Joey Linn, his blink was able to get him out of danger from the Thor ultimate out of Layers, but had Zirxy waited or just panic mezzed immediately, then I think Layers easily finishes off that Berserker's Barrage onto Fatal Ghost.
Uh-oh, 2-on-2 under that tier 2 tower. Now oBoronic and Gryphon gonna join the action. Fatal Ghost very low. Astral Barrage, 1 connects, but the 2 and 3 were not in range, but Wolves certainly is. Up in the air, oBoronic goes, lands down, transforming into Thor. Ryan Jarman gonna get stunned out as well, taking a lot of damage. Body block to high heaven. Second death for Armada. Third death as Zirxy falls. A nice little double kill. Up and down goes one, and triple kill for Gryphon. Surrender vote even being started as only MitchTeep can watch from a distance.
Wolves is just making Gryphon, everybody from Astral is just making Gryphon look like a god here. in game 2, Tolly, and for good reason. I mean, Gryphon just has all the time in the world to precast. MitchTeep at level 13, you know he's just got to dash away from Wolves charging right at him with the Tiger form transformation, and it's just crumbling inside of Armada's base as Astral Authority take whatever their hearts desire.
Is it the composition? Is it the gameplay? What is separating these two teams between Astral and Armada?
Armada just did not pressure out Astral Authority during their usable period. They had to apply way more pressure onto that duo mid-side of the map, and it just wasn't there. I think we saw one gank from Joey, and this is an Agni Rama, and that is so much damage.
Especially when you're going to commit to the blink at level 1. You would love to see that kind of pressure early. Mitch barely trying to survive. The hammer going to seal the fate, but now he has no more escape up against Joey. oBoronic looking for the stun, misses after the overhead kick. Layer still alive for the moment. Here comes Bobby trying to save his teammates.
And it's good so far. At least the heal will be. Gryphon gonna end up actually finding the last hit onto Joey Linn there towards the end. All the while, Wolves has got Fiddle Ghost attention in mid-Phoenix, and that's all she wrote, Totally, because right side T2 is gonna end up falling here in no time at all.
Just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, getting the last remaining tier 2 tower. Look how many minions are flooding down that left side lane while the rest of Astral are trying to get this right side Phoenix up in the sky, landing right down his layers, kills out Zirxy. Astral Barrage gonna force Fatal Ghost to disengage. Cursed Ankh even coming through, but I don't see how they defend this one, Taco.
But just look at the way that Armada are constantly being picked off. It is non-stop staggered respawn timers, but more importantly, we never see one member of Astral without at least 2 or 3 supporting teammates. And for Armada, it just feels like a lot of 1v4 action, if not more. And that's just overwhelming when you're already at such a massive experience and goal deficit.
It feels with a healing composition, with a pick composition that Astral have, it's so beneficial for them to stay grouped up with such a demanding experience lead. Up in the sky goes oBoronic transforming into Layers. The target is going to be right onto Teep. He's narrowly going to avoid death, but Layers with a hot double kill cleanup, no problem. Middle Phoenix due to fall any second now, but can they save Layers?
And sure enough, they will. Shell's going to get in range in time, and that's pretty much all that they needed. Layers still doesn't have that link, though, and Jarman looking to punish him for it, but he's going to be able to run right out of there. Great body blocks between Wolves and Inbound to save the life of the Thor.
No. Kill opportunities are presented for Armada, unfortunately. They can't even hold on to their Phoenixes. Astral Authority are looking like they're going to continue their undefeated streak, beating out Flashpoint, beating out Elevated. Now to find the victory 2-0 against Armada will put them in a very good spot, transitioning to the second half of the split.
That's an almost 30,000 experience difference, by the way,
Yikes.
between these two teams. That's about as steep as it can get. This is essentially cyberbullying by now.
So we have to report them now after this game.
We probably should. This is not looking too good right now.
Or should we call Astral's parents to let them know?
Oh, we'll get Veronic's mom on the line, but
Okay.
she's such a sweet soul, though. I highly doubt that she'd get angry at the boys.
She really, really is. Astral Authority, 24 minutes in. Probably going to wait out to get this next Fire Giant that has respawned. They got the first one, by the way, 18.5 minutes in, so this one is not going to be the enhanced Fire Giant. Still going to be the regular one, which gives you 20% extra structure damage, but with this kind of a lead, I don't think that makes a big difference.
Everything just kind of escalated in it, and I'm drawing this all the way back to that very first team fight in the mid lane, where the scoreline went from 1-1 to 1-6. And
oh, yeah.
The full-on first team side wipe from Armada by that red buff pressure, and I still just can't help but wonder why there. Like, both the places and time just didn't really seem to make much sense here. But it all kind of just broke apart for Armada and just opened up a brand new avenue for Astral to just continuously aggress into Armada.
I guess better to have tried and failed than to have never have tried at all was the statement that Armada were going for there. But could have picked their spot a little bit cleaner there. I like how oBoronic transformed into Gryphon to get the Fire Giant while Gryphon was actually getting the Gold Fury. That's one way of being in two places at one time.
I just wanted to see a little bit more from Joey Linn. I feel like if you're going to go for the Blink Robin and you're going to get the pressure pick, first of all, then you have to do something with it.
And now it's too late for him to look for these Blink plays because they're just too far behind. Look how fast Fiddle Ghost falls in the action. Left side, Phoenix is going to start getting aggressed on, but no, I don't even think that's going to matter because the mid Titan is very low. Wolves is going to commit with his decoy.
Wolves is soloing the Titan, but he will end up resetting, so that's a little bit of help that Astral are now going to have to worry about with 2 members of Armada joining the death count. Only Teep left to try and defend. He's been putting up as much damage as he possibly could. Just going to dash on forward. He's accepted his fate. He's just looking for any amount of padded stats.
Anything he could do. Maybe find a miracle stun that he catches all 5 members. Armada fall yet again. Astral Authority, 29 kills, only giving up 4 in response in 26 minutes of play.
Yeah, I don't really fault Teep at the end there. It's kind of just, this is just the way that the game panned out for you. It got a little bit away from that. I think the set in general, though, it didn't feel like any egregious misplays from Armada. I just think that Astro felt a little bit more experienced.
I feel like Armada got a little bit too ahead of themselves, looking for a very early gank in the first game, not looking for any ganks in the dueling. The second game where they had the blink Ravana play from Joey.
I still don't get it because they were more aggressive in game 1 with a more passive jungle entrance way because it was the Najah with the blink or the beads as opposed to a blink, and then we saw more action there than we did in game 2.
Well, Astral Authority made it happen yet again in week number 3. Who at home do you think Mixer deserves the MVP for game 2?
Wolves.
Wolves again?
I think
it's just got to be Wolves?
It has to be Wolves. Like, he just fully controlled and dictated the entire pacing of this match. There was no one from Armada that had any way of trying to help compensate somewhere else on the map or even look to just punish Wolves. He pretty much got to do whatever the hell he wanted.
It's very true, and doesn't matter if he's playing the Bologna, you ban away his Odin, he'll play the Sun Wukong, and he'll find a way to get a 3-level lead, start rotating around, and this is why we always talk so much about him, because he's making these plays where he's zoning 3 players around, where he's like diving towers to zone people away, and finding kills in the process is making it so difficult to handle him.
That's the problem with Wolves, though. He just executes his job perfectly. He forces you to notice him. Even when you try to play around him, you just can't because he'll jump right into the thick of the action and just split the team fights apart.
Well, outside of Astral's Wolves, a lot of other players played a solid performance. Oboronix had a lot of opportunities to transform into Wolves from time to time. And speaking of Wolves, he will be your game number 2 MVP. 13.5 KDA, all that player damage in the world. Just destroying everyone.
And this was probably one of the more shaky-looking team fights, by the way, just because Wolves was all by himself diving the mid lane, just doing whatever he pleased. I do have to also commend Layers, though, for his usage of those Thor walls specifically, because even though he might not have always been on the mark with actually landing that Thor ultimate, it didn't matter because the wall placement was so perfect at just keeping the members of Armada confined to one space.
And the Oboronic also transforming to the Thor from time to time. Double Thor walls, you could just crisscross and really keep a lot of players locked down. Medusa was struggling as well. Fatal Ghost couldn't really do too much there. Because of the Thor. Like, it was a slow start for his Layers, I would say, because it was a calculated slow start. He knew that power spike.
Well, he also knew he had an Aphrodite in the duel lane, so the least amount of attention he could possibly bring would be to avoid ganking that lane, avoid drawing the mid laner and the enemy jungler over in terms of trying to get a counter gank going, and that was the problem again for Armada. They kind of just let that happen.
Well, with this victory for Astral Authority, this concludes week number 3 for the console, but let's take a look at what happened in the previous week. In the European side, it was Rival finding the 2-0 victory up against Cyclone GG. Offline, Noxious gets a 2-0 over Retribution. Flashpoint able to topple over Elevate.
And this could be dangerous water now for Elevate because they've already been having some issues early on at the start. It just feels like the level of competition as a whole is rising in both regions.
Well, no surprise to see Rival still dominating Europe. Astral Authority remains undefeated in North America. Could be another finals repeat in the console world.
Only time will tell, Tole. We're still quite a ways off from that one, and we still got to wait till the Box Boys are over here on this side of town again. But Rival certainly aiming for some revenge against Astral.
And this is the best way possible to start off the first half of the split, to go into the second half remaining undefeated, trying to make sure that you don't give anything too far back away.
Well, one thing's for sure, I've definitely been enjoying seeing these little fun mix-ups between all the teams. I think that we have seen some shifts towards prioritization in terms of god play potential. Seems as though console's still favoring that Robin pretty heavily.
Oh yeah, at least in the Xbox side of things. But that's all for now in the Xbox for Monday. But don't go anywhere because we're going to have PlayStation when we come back.